Okay, we're live. Hey
Boom.
guys.
Hey,
Boom.
How we doing?
How goes it?
It's going. How you guys doing?
You know, beautiful sunny day here in Southern California.
oh, there we go again. Bragging about California.
Actually, it's like really hot. So,
How hot is it?
like almost 90 degrees.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a hot one. So, how's it in Chicago? I know Zach is obviously warm where Zach is.
It's actually in like the 70s here, so we hit the 60s yesterday. That was nice.
Nice. I don't know. You know, it's been nice. I mean, it's been a crazy week, and so I haven't really left the house much for obvious reasons too. But
right.
I think it's I don't know. I'm excited for the weekend, and this is a nice little segue. Have a few drams.
Yes.
Share the love with all you guys.
Yes, I look forward to doing these and hanging out with you guys. So it's a good one. So it looks like William's here. Hi, William, and Steve A. Hi, Steve.
William said in my favorite leather chair, about to have a wee dram. Nice.
Ooh.
Have a few, William. Maybe don't limit yourself to one, but not pushing. Just
I need a good leather chair to drink whiskey in. I don't have one. I gotta work on that. So Sipsy Russell's here. Welcome back. We're happy to have you. You've been at quite a few of these, so we appreciate it. Thank you. And Kyle, finally Friday. Yes, finally Friday. So Kyle's in the Bay Area, so not too far from me. And let's see, Dudley, and 45 degrees in Ohio. No, thank you. That is cold.
I'll pass on that right now. Especially in the middle of May or beginning of May. Man,
that is cold. So, geez. All right. So Jeff and Vesper, hello. I spoke with you a few days ago on the phone. So thank you for taking the time out to come hang out with us. We appreciate it very much.
Steve's still working, but hey, he's here.
Hey,
Steve.
This is a good little break from work. And Karen's back from DC. Hello, Karen. Good to see you again. And Tom's in Brooklyn, not in the mountains of New York. So welcome back to Brooklyn, Tom.
Tom's here.
So yeah, we got a full house.
This will be fun. What's everybody? I mean, I assume everybody's pouring a dram. What do you guys have in your glass? Maybe start with that. What do you guys have? I mean,
I should do that.
Jen and Zach, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm ahead of the game here. Yeah.
The classic Zach move. Zach is always ahead of the game when it comes to.
I'm behind here.
If you don't start drinking at the beginning of the day, you can't drink all day.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Wow, wise words.
I need that on a T-shirt or something.
Yeah. But no, yeah. So I'm actually sipping on 26129 pineapple ramen.
Nice. Do you have a bottle handy? I'm curious.
I do.
Pineapple ramen.
Funny, yeah. I don't know about you guys, but when we sent out our email about animals, I got a spirit animal of a bear, and it actually happened to be the
I was also a bear.
You were a bear too, Ben?
I was a bear. If you guys don't know what Zach's mentioning is today we sent out if you guys subscribe to the SMWS of America emails, we did this cool thing. We partnered with a wildlife expert out in the UK. We've offered a quiz to find your own spirit animal. Spirit being sort of double meaning in this sense, obviously the spirit as we know it, but then it's spirit, the whiskey spirit. It's a fun way to sort of find your spirit animal and your own flavor profile. It sort of matches your unique personality. Anyway, yeah, it's been fun. So I got a bear today. You can check it out on our website. But
so Juicy Oak and Vanilla was actually that so I figured why not? Just might as well start with it.
Jenna, did you do one?
I did. I was a bird I got the oily and coastal, which is pretty spot on.
What was your bird called, Jenna?
It's like a grand. I had to Google it. Some kind of like seabird.
A seabird.
I'm cool with that.
So it was a cormorant, whatever
there you go.
It may be.
A great grand seabird. So Ben, what do you have in your glass?
So I think what I'm going to start with is one from our recent outturn. Can you see this well? I think this is called Society Whiskey. Obviously, Cask 12.33, the most fun with your cloves on. Love that name.
I love that.
Also the blue label, which is one of our 12 flavor profiles, which we'll get into in a little bit. But so Zach, you and I sort of have a similar palate or sort of similar spirit with the same spirit animal.
Yeah, I guess we are. We're similar at heart.
Wow.
I guess.
Wow.
Hey.
It's quarantine beards and everything.
Yeah. This is going away soon.
What about you, Jenna?
Well, I'm not growing a quarantine beard. Sorry.
No.
But I have a blue one too today that I poured. That's so weird because we didn't talk about this beforehand at all. So it's very interesting that we all chose something with our, beautiful blue band. And this is cask 80.13, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, which is part of our new member bundles that we have available to members who join the society. And I just tried it last night for the first time, and I love it. It's so fantastic. So this one's been a lot of fun to dig into.
I love that name. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We also have, today, tonight, depending on what time zone you're in, it's kind of a unique session because we're going to be unlocking the vaults. The vaults is sort of our kind of insider word. It's a spiritual home of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, in Port of Leith outside of Edinburgh. And so we'll be talking about a lot of things that I think, we get so many questions about what is this society, the whole concept, understanding it. We're going to be unveiling that. But I see here just in the comments, we also have a lot of current members too. And I just know that because we're getting a lot of responses based on the casks or the whiskeys rather that they're enjoying right now. I saw, Tom said, first of all, he said he's an elephant. He did the spirit animal quiz as well. Old and dignified, like 50.104, cask 50.104. That's the whiskey he's Dudley says starting with 26,128 and 4.250. If you're new to the society, obviously you've come here to learn about it, and these numbers mean nothing to you. You're not alone. We're going to be addressing all that. That's sort of the purpose of this. But there are sort of just 4 codes designated for each single cask whiskey we have at the society. And Andrew Faulkner says 35.242, which is called Fruits in the Shade of Oak. Like that name. I think that's Andrew. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's also a blue label, which is the juicy oak and vanilla flavor profile. Yeah. We'll get into that too, but I think we're all on the blue thing today.
I guess so. We're great minds think alike. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that.
So, hey, I have a question for you guys. Hope that's okay. We're going to get, a little honest here. But I was having a conversation with a member earlier this week, and I was basically telling him how I ended up coming into the society and how I became a member of the society. And Zach, I don't think I know your story about how you became a member of the society. Like, what turned you on to becoming a member of like this coolest, awesome, fantastic whiskey club ever?
And Zach, who are you? I think I've seen a lot of you guys. We appreciate you guys keep coming back to these streams. We keep getting asked to do more and more. So I'm seeing a lot of familiar names, but also some new ones too. So maybe just for the group, kind of introduce yourself. And I love, Jen, your question's great too. Yeah. I think you should share your story too, but kind of introduce yourself.
Don't leave me out of it, But yeah, so I guess, all right, so starting, I'm Zach. I'm Zach. A lot of people probably know me from the emails. I am your members correspondent, I guess you'd say. So I'm usually your first point of contact when you join. I also run the Southeast events. So, when we get those started up again, you'll probably see my face around the Southeast. I'm actually based out of Orlando, Florida. And it's funny because Ben likes to mention, I have some big ADHD. So what happens is when I like something, I really like to get into it, and I get very passionate about it. So a few years ago, I actually started to get into whiskey. I'd been smoking some cigars, and someone started recommending whiskey. So I started doing some research, and I looked up whiskey clubs, and I couldn't find anything. And then I started to look up Scotch whiskey clubs. And funny enough, this SMWSA popped up. So me and, my hi-ho kind of attitude, I joined. I looked, and I ended up getting a bottle of whiskey to go with it. And I just started drinking, and I thought it was really cool. So I looked up tasting notes. And that day, I actually emailed and got Tom. I was like, this is awesome. I think this is so cool. How do I join the team? This is super awesome. I want to do this forever. And Tom emailed me back, and actually a year to the day of me emailing Tom and joining the society, I actually became a member of the team. So mine actually just started out of my love and passion for things that I'm enjoying. And I became a member, and now thankfully I'm here on the other side of it. So what about you, Jenna? How about yourself?
Mine's a little different, I guess. So when I started Whiskey A Go Girl back, I'm coming up on my 4th anniversary of really taking the nosedive into whiskey next week, actually. And so, when I started that account, I just wanted to learn as much as I could about whiskey. And that still is true now. That's like my favorite thing to do is just dive in on a subject and, stay up until 3 a.m. researching it. But I had all these questions and I was starting to get to know people through Instagram. And Ben was actually one of the first people, accounts that I started following, over at Single Malt Alliance. And we, just talked and we ended up being at some events together. And, he was telling me about the society. And I think the one you did out here in LA, I want to say it was a rum event or it was.
Yeah, we were out in LA. We did a single cask rum tasting at the Kanya Rum Bar.
Yeah. And so I went and, met with Ben. We did the whole thing. And I was like, okay, this is like so awesome. And I wasn't a big rum person at the time, but tasting those single cask rums, I was like, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And I was like, okay, I'm like super curious now. And so, I had my first taste of single cask whiskey from the society. And it was actually Handbags and Hookahs was the first society, I think, single cask that I had, whiskey wise. And I was hooked. I was like, this is like the most flavor explosive, and I love high ABV and I love just it in its rawest, most pure form. And I was getting that. And it was such an experience. I was like, okay, I'm in. So became a member. And then we went out to Chicago, my husband and I, for a wedding. So we got to meet Ben out in Chicago, and you can go back in the archives here on YouTube and see our early videos back in 2018.
Yeah.
In Ben's office in Chicago. So, and I just, when I decided to come on board, back in 2018, I was like, this is the coolest thing in the whole world. I have to be a part of this. Not only do I love the whiskeys, but obviously Ben's been such a big mentor for me, just in whiskey in general. So to be able to be a part of this team is like, dream come true for me. So
I don't want to butt in, but
I'm not going anywhere.
Same thing for me. It's actually in that journey between joining as a member and becoming a team member. I started following Ben, and Ben is what on Single Malt Alliance, and Ben's truly what got me into whiskey and wanting to know more about it. So not to toot your horn, Ben.
Yeah, not the agenda.
Look, we love you and we appreciate you, and you've taught us a lot. And it's really awesome that we're now able to take all of those things and share that with our members and pass the knowledge along. So thanks.
Well, I think the interesting thing about all this, and I mean, I think you guys, everybody joining us today, will appreciate this too. The 3 of us were all members of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society before we started working for the company. Mm-hmm. I think we really came at this from the perspective of just finding something that really changed. And it sounds corny, but to say changed our lives, well, effectively it did. I think our love for the club and just really how it transformed our interest in whiskey, it clearly inspired us to make it a full-time thing. So that is a unique thing that the 3 of us have. And actually, I would say that that applies to everybody on our team, because I'm thinking of others too and sort of their background. So, for all members of the society or anybody interested in joining, it's a unique situation because we're not up here pitching a brand because, we just got a job and we're selling something. It's like we all came at this from the member perspective, and we are still members and buy the whiskey too. But I just want to kind of just address some of the comments too. A lot of people are sort of sipping on different society whiskeys. Let's Drink Whiskey said I came by the way of Roy Duff. Good, and you were also here, I think, the last stream too. So good to see you, Zach. Let's Drink Whiskey. Jerry Brunkala says, or Brunkala. Sorry, Jerry, if I mispronounced that, but is drinking 10.180 Western Rhone today. Ooh. Like a nice one. Sipsy Russell says, I'm a brown bear. I assume that relates to the spirit animal we were talking about earlier. So I'm a bear as well. I can't remember.
I'm a brown bear, yeah.
You're a brown bear? Okay, all those bears. And Paul comments probably your what you were saying, Jenna, with your story. 2018 is just so long ago. It's funny because you joined 2018 right as a club, and I think I've been a member for a couple of years before I joined the company. But it's not that long ago when you think about it, but so much has changed.
Really?
When you think about us and the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, that's changed so much in just the last few years since then. Anyway. So
you saw Brianna's here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Drown is cracking an oily and coastal Campbellton for a rainy New York City night.
You go, girl.
It's not raining here.
Nice. So maybe I think let's kind of get into it. We listen. We have a lot to talk about. We'll try to keep it sort of a reasonable time. It's a nice segue into the weekend. And normally, if this was a regular presentation, we'd be keeping you from the whiskey. But in this instance, we're encouraging you to just go ahead and get started. We've all pre-poured a few drams. And I mean, I think over the course of this afternoon, evening, again, Jenna, for you, it's on the West Coast, it's afternoon. For Zach on the East Coast, it's bleeding into evening. But I think it'll be sort of a pretty casual. And again, we're going to be, I think along the way, we'll be talking about the society, kind of giving more context to really what it is. I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say misunderstanding, but a lot of questions that we get asked often. I think we'll try to nail some of those. Really excited about that too. And we'll give some context, a little bit of history. And then I think along the process though, just by the nature of this discussion, we'll be sharing a lot of behind the scenes dealings to kind of explain more about how the whiskey's selected, where it comes from, how it's named. And these are some questions that I know even a lot of current members are asking us regularly. So I think it'll be pretty cool. I think, I guess our goal from this is to have everybody walk away knowing a bit more about it, maybe appreciate more about, obviously that would be great too. Take from it whatever you'd like, but perhaps have a greater appreciation for some of the things we're doing, obviously as a members club. And then, I don't know, maybe feel inspired to go have a society whiskey. And if you're not a member, join us. We're always looking for more people to share drams with, albeit virtually these days. So
One day we'll get back out there.
I think maybe too, we'll go through this. We'll be talking about this and we'll be talking amongst ourselves and answering questions. But if you guys off the bat, if you have any questions about the society, something you've been wanting to know for a while, or maybe a new question that's popped in your head, go ahead and just submit that in the comments and we'll log those. And as we go along, we'll try to answer every question. If not in real time by the end of the sort of discussion. So cool.
Yeah. Well, give us the rundown. I mean, let's do this.
I think I need a double pour for this one.
Oh, all right.
I'm on a number 2 over here as well.
Oh, I'm still on the first one. Calm down, brown bears.
Yeah. This one's good, by the way. The most fun with your clothes on. Love that name.
I've been recommending that quite a bit because when we tasted it, when was that? Monday? Yeah. I was so floored by it. That one's really fantastic.
I've moved on to another blue, funky flowers and tropical fruits. So
Ooh.
I'm sticking around.
Fancy.
So I think maybe just we'll do a quick rundown of just basic history. I won't do it in the most textbook way, but just sort of an easy to digest format. But in essence, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society is, for lack of a better word, the world's leading whiskey club in this sense. I mean, certainly in size, we have roughly 30,000 members around the world. Started about almost coming up in 40 years, 37 years ago, this club was started. And it's a unique club in the sense that it was started all based on the premise of discovering the world's finest single cask whiskey and sharing it amongst each other. I think, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel when I taste a whiskey by myself at home, it's great and all, but when I have it to share with somebody, it just, moments are created from that. I think the experience of tasting whiskey amongst each other, amongst friends or family, is a heightened experience that it's just it's unique to whiskey. Maybe not only just to whiskey, but with whiskey in particular, I find that the world's best whiskey, or just great whiskey, is really at its best when it's shared. And
I agree completely.
I'm going to say, I think,
with that. Yeah.
It's even better when it's with people that have the same passion for it as you do. And I think that's what's so great about the society, and the whole basis and foundation of it is, this exactly what you're just talking about.
Yeah. So concretely, if you think about it, so the society was founded in 1983, which, when you consider as a whiskey company relative to other distilleries in Scotland that are hundreds of years old, it's pretty young. Yeah. But for a whiskey club going on 40 years, at 37 right now, it's been around for a while, and it's sort of become the pinnacle of both in size and sort of scope of what it does. And it's interesting because when you think back to the early 80s, think of the whiskey we enjoy today and the whiskey that was enjoyed back then. It's very, very different. Mm-hmm. The early 80s, it really kind of going from the 70s into the early 80s, was at a time in which most of Scotch whiskey enjoyed around the world was sort of the big blends, the big name blends that were all sort of created in a unique style to blended whiskey that's really suited for all palates. It's something that's sort of approachable, light, not too intense, not too profound, sort of a lighter style of whiskey generally at a lower strength of alcohol, around 40% is what you see. I'm not going to name names of big blends, but you guys, the style of blended Scotch whiskey was the most dominant in the world for a long time. And so this idea of single malt whiskey, and that's a term we all know today, single malt whiskey, which is really popular. And I think a lot of us view single malt as being really the more premium of the two. And that's up for debate always, of course. But the concept was very, very new. So our founder was a gentleman called Pip Hills, sort of a larger than life character. And Pip was from Edinburgh, took a trip up to Scotland. Oh, you got a picture of him. Yeah. So there's Pip. There's Pip. There's modern Pip. He probably had a fewer grays back in 1983, but then again, so did I. But in essence, so Pip had a unique opportunity to walk into a warehouse of a Speyside distillery. Speyside's up sort of northern Scotland, largest whiskey region of Scotland. Walked into the warehouse and had a chance to taste whiskey straight from the cask. So cask, obviously, term that is universally used to describe the wooden vessel that whiskey's aged in. Here in America, we use the term barrel more often than not, but you get kind of into it. Barrel's a type of cask, but so we'll use the word cask. He had the chance to taste the spirit straight from the cask and just notice how different it was from any whiskey that he enjoyed. And I think for a guy, and this is me now injecting my own opinion, but I think for a guy who sort of went through experience of only being acquainted with sort of the big blends and the more readily accessible whiskeys, to taste whiskey in its purest form straight from the cask, it's profoundly different. So he was just marveled by the fact that it was really intensely flavored. It was stronger, of course, because it hadn't been watered down before going into the bottle, like most scotches. And it just had so much character. So he was so moved by this whiskey, just in its purest form, that he actually bought the entire cask and strapped it on into his car and drove it back to Edinburgh, where he shared it with his friends. And I think, back in Edinburgh, everybody felt the same way. As, what is this crazy whiskey that is different than anything we can get at the shop? And it was love at first sight. And so from that was the concept of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society continued to evolve over the years. And it's this idea of going around Scotland. Now it's going beyond, but going around Scotland, finding these individual casks of whiskey from different distilleries, knowing that no two casks ever produce the same flavors and profiles, and then sharing it amongst each other, amongst friends. So they would get together, they pool all their funds together, buy another cask. Once they could afford to do it, they buy another cask, kill that cask probably quicker than they should have, and then pool their funds together and go on and do that again. So, over time, and we won't go into it. Pip has since published a book, and we have some more info on our website. But it was just keep in mind that in the early '80s, whiskey was very, very different, and it was a profound experience for Pip Hills. And then I think the concept overall really took off, and I think Pip was an OG of the modern day whiskey world, which now I think it's more common to find single malt whiskey or single malt whiskey bottled just in its purest form. But it's an interesting thing. And so that was back then, but it's what do you, anything you guys want to add to sort of the history or anything that stuck out at you of?
You get that pretty spot on. It's an interesting past. It's really neat to hear about, and it's just the culmination of everything leading up to where it is now. It's awesome. It's just all based on the interests and the shared passion for something with people. So
right, that's like the one thing that's remained true from the very beginning, or one of the bigger things that's remained true is that you just had a group of friends who wanted to get together and drink great whiskey. Like that is still what we do today. That hasn't changed. That's probably blossomed more and grown more, since that time. But I love that that's really the heart of this is, look, we have this great whiskey and we want to share it with our friends, and by friends, I mean our members. So I think that's really a very unique thing that not many, whiskey clubs or, companies can say. So.
Yeah, so just kind of moving beyond that, to the present. So that was, again, 37 years ago. 83 was when the society was founded, eventually opened our own facility, which is called The Vaults, and hence the name of The Vaults Unlocked. We're unlocking the vaults. That is depicted in all of our bottles. It's a historic building in the Port of Leith, just a couple miles outside of the heart of Edinburgh. And it's our members club, essentially. Now it's also our team's offices. The three of us are in the US, of course, so our office is not there, but our UK team and headquarters is there. And for members of the society, you can go there, and it's essentially like a bucket list destination. Yeah. And it was always a dream of mine before I became even a member, let alone work for the company. Going there is just like like going to Mecca, as a whiskey lover. But
I think a cool touch too is, and I know Tom had added it the last time, it is actually the oldest building in Scotland that is still used for the same purpose it was originally built for, which is wine and spirit trade. And it's been there for God knows how, a couple hundred years or 100 and something years at this point. So the history behind it is still cool as anything, to know that it was there receiving whiskey and wine from the port for decades and centuries at this point. So that's also a cool point about it.
Yeah. So today it's obviously changed. It's become the largest whiskey club in the world. As I mentioned, like 30,000 members operating in over 20 different countries. We've gone beyond we this idea of pooling funds together and buying a cask and then sharing amongst each other has expanded in the sense that, when you join the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, you pay a small fee as a membership dues. We've sort of built the model on this idea of let's all pool it together and go get the whiskeys, collectively. But we've gone beyond, and we have more than 10,000 casks now sitting in our own warehouse in Scotland, and many more kind of scattered around. And every month, essentially, we're releasing a new selection of single cask whiskeys, and they're all one and done. Single cask whiskeys are only yield. This is, for instance, this bottle I'm drinking is one of 186, and that's it. And I want to say in the United States, we probably only got about 60 bottles of this one, but they're all one and done. And as a member of the society, it's sort of an experience of you can try these whiskeys that you can't find on the shelves. We don't sell this whiskeys anywhere. And it's funny because the club is at the heart of what we do, but over the years we've become really known for our whiskey. Beyond, I think a lot of people come to society because they had heard of the whiskey, or they hear one best whiskey in the world, at a big competition. So they come into it, but really the heart of it, it's the club. And when we conduct our business side and in the club dealings, that's really the heart of everything. It's just the people. So
I'm glad we're able to do these, virtually, because, I miss putting on events and tastings and being there, in person with people and really like sharing the moment. There's nothing like that, 20 people in a room all jazzed up about whiskey. And it's such a fun time, hosting those events. And I can't wait to get back out and do those again. So.
I'm with you. One of the things I miss the most is actually hearing people's stories, hearing people tell me about their adventures into Scotland and things that I haven't had the opportunity to experience. And, I'm happy that we get to be here and chat with some of our members and have the opportunity to drink with others. I don't feel alone anymore.
Yeah, it's fun too, because like I do this at home, but when you have 20 people in a room kind of sharing opinions, is, like tasting notes. You taste a whiskey and then hearing, everyone kind of chime in on what they're getting, what the nose smells like. And sometimes they're very similar, and then sometimes they're just so wildly different. And it just goes to show you how subjective whiskey can be, and that's a lot of fun. So I miss that too.
I'd just like to call out a couple things. Christian C says these live events are lit, particularly on a Friday night. And Han Solo is in the house, who says, woohoo, let's go. Woohoo, not like a Wookiee woohoo, but just like a normal woohoo, let's go. Cheers, Han Solo and Christian.
Your specificity there, Ben, is really noted.
And Andrew Golden says, I like the virtual since I don't live in a big city. It's hard to get to the big tasting events. Yeah, I think we'll touch upon I think, Jenna, you want to talk more about the events, but
right.
In essence, that's part of what we normally do. We host events around the country, but just a few years ago, we did events in New York, and that's pretty much it because we're such a small team. But as our team has grown and our membership has grown across the U.S., we've been adding more cities. And so we've been able to get more and more places, but it has been great. And I think we've all talked about, even after this quarantine ends, we want to continue doing these live virtual hangouts for all members.
I'm looking like
everybody around the country.
Yeah.
We're getting everywhere.
Everywhere. We are still a relatively small team, speaking, of course. But
you're looking at it.
Tom's here. Brandon's here. We're all here.
Yeah, we're all here. So
Jen, you want to touch upon just sort of like what is a membership like, and maybe we can answer questions. I'm logging some questions, you guys. I appreciate you asking questions about the whiskey and everything. Feel
free to stop me at any time if you want to answer any of those. I don't mind. But so for me, the member experience is very personal because, I had the experience as a member before. I was the one, making sure that experience was great. And, when you come on and you become a member, you're getting so much more than just getting access to these these beautiful casks that, once they're gone and you'll never get it again. I always like to look at these as like little snapshots in time, because it's just in that moment when that goes into the bottle, and it's a special moment, and you drink it all and then it's gone. And so you just kind of like build this little memory bank of all these really great moments or bottles. And so, taking that, and that's great. And you get to when you're a member, you get to have access to that. But for me, the bigger thing was, as much as I've learned from being a part of the society, on both ends, being a member and, being on the team side, is I've learned so much. And it's a lot of fun to, get on the phone with members and like spend half an hour and just talk about whiskey and answer any questions. And, they tell me their experiences and what they've learned about whiskey, and I share mine. And it's a really great thing. So I think we're offering something so much more than just access to whiskey. We're offering an opportunity, of personalized learning. And, we have members that call, at least, I do all the time. And, I know what they like. And I know that, they like, sauterne finishes, or, whatever the case is. And it's just been really nice to get to know people on that level, and to share whiskey knowledge with them, and for them to be receptive to it. So I love that about the society, is just the fact that we can offer so much education, even through a phone call or a tasting like this, or in-person tasting when we get back to it. But that's a big plus for me. The other thing that you get when you become a member is you get Unfiltered magazine. So I actually have a bunch of them. I save all of them, and I go back
see your
and
collection
read them. So Unfiltered is quarterly. So this gets sent out to you quarterly, and it's just jam-packed full of, stories and information. And I think a couple years ago, there was a really great one on peat, which was very interesting to learn. And I learned a lot about, phenolic compounds and all of that great stuff. So there's a lot of really good educational pieces inside of, these magazines. And you get to learn about some of your, favorite distilleries, or maybe distilleries that you haven't learned, anything about. So these are great. And these come to you quarterly when you're a member. So those are fun. And the cool thing too is they put a lot of pictures in there from chapters all around the world. So you can see like tastings in Germany, or, Denmark, or, wherever the case is. It's kind of fun to see it on a global scale. And then obviously our tasting events, which I miss so dearly.
What do you mean? We're doing it right here.
We're doing it now, yes, and I love them, and I'm so grateful, that we have technology to keep the human connection alive and strong. But I'm excited to get back out there and bring lots of Walker shortbread treats to share with people with their whiskey, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's also another great opportunity, much like this, to learn and to ask questions and just to connect with people, on a level of, sharing their love for whiskey. So that's a big perk. And, I've really enjoyed those events, these as well. I've learned so much. And then I think, one of the biggest things for me that the society has taught me is I've had the chance to taste so many whiskeys that I would never have an opportunity to taste otherwise. There are we bottle, some distilleries that you don't see single cask from. A lot of these distilleries are blending houses, and their stuff goes into blends, but we're able to take a little snapshot of single cask from them and share it. So that's been a lot of fun too, is just getting the access to so many distilleries that you wouldn't get otherwise. So what do you guys have?
I'm over here laughing because Tom's pawning me off on events for after this craziness happens, and it's getting me excited to go back out and be with members. And
I can't wait.
Specifically, it's in Knoxville, so I haven't been, and those are things that I love. It takes me to places I've never been, and I get to meet so many different people, and the cultures in these places. Not only are you learning about the culture, but you're learning about how they themselves view the whiskey and their opinions on it, and things they tie it to. So I'm giggling at that.
Yeah, and so Andrew Golden asks, how secret does the team try to be with the name of the distilleries? As I think most of us members, I'll go up, look up what the code is. That's a good question, I think. And Zach, you mentioned you want to really kind of dive into the
and
Zach will be addressing that. But in essence, it's it's not intended to be secretive, though I think it's become that. I think as we've learned as members before, and just as whiskey lovers, is that, no two single cask whiskeys are ever alike. And in essence, and not to steal away from what we're going to talk about moving forward, but the whiskeys we're looking for, very atypical from what I think what distilleries are putting out. We're looking just focused on exceptionally flavored spirits, period. And, we don't want whiskey that's going to taste just like what a distillery puts out, because you can go get that. We're looking for something different. So in essence, every cask has its own story. And by just letting the whiskey do the talking and not focusing on the brand, I think you do the whiskey more justice. There's a lot of whiskey out there that is just not getting our attention because, the distillery doesn't have the marketing arm or the muscle to advertise or to, or to export. But there's so many fantastic whiskeys out there that I think deserve attention. So just by focusing on flavor, that's sort of our approach. It's a unique one, but I think it works out.
And I'll add to that, because I know somebody asked the question earlier in terms of asking if the society, we go out and do we buy, spirit, or do we buy already aged spirits that are in casks that have been sat down? And I think it's a good way to kind of segue into what Ben is saying here, when, we're not necessarily hiding the distillery name, but when we go out, a lot of times we're actually buying the spirit itself. So a lot of character that comes from distilleries is a mixture of the new make that they have mixed with the casks, their warehouse type, how they're racked, the temperature outside and whatnot. But when we're buying a lot of our spirit, it's the spirit. We're buying the new make, and then we will fill it into the cask and age it in our warehouse. So we're just, you don't want to tie something to a distillery and expect that same characteristic out of every single bottle, as single casks are. They're not going to do that all the time. So I think that was a really good question. And I didn't want him to feel like we forgot about it. But at the same time, it's right here. Christian said, even when we get back to normal, he'd like to see these continue, as they seem to be enjoying it just as much as we do.
I saw Whiskey Throttle says, Ben looks so serious when he reads the comments. I got to keep that in mind. I have like this resting comment face, whatever you want to call it.
You're concentrating.
And I also noticed that Michael D says 53 and 3.313 and 53.309 are so different. And just like that, I have two glasses poured at once. Okay, right on. I think
Kyle added, which is very helpful, especially for new members, that these quarterly magazines of Unfiltered, just in case you want to go back and read, there is actually a digital version of them on the site as well. So that's a new thing for some of our members, is you're able to now go online and read them. In case you don't have all 97 issues like Jenna has, you can go back and kind of reread some articles that have been posted. So that's a really helpful point there.
Yeah, that's good to know.
And I see Tim says, I agree, Jenna. The personal growth from tasting whiskeys that aren't available otherwise and learning from other passionate members have been really rewarding. Mm-hmm. I think I agree with that. I mean, my experience and my appreciation of whiskey has expanded because I don't want to say I've been forced, because I've willingly tasted these whiskeys, but I've really stepped outside of my comfort zone and what I know, as a result of just sort of focusing on the flavor and targeting that, as opposed to going for a distillery that I know or a specific style I know. I don't know.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's made me more, I don't know, open and appreciative or knowledgeable sort of whiskey enthusiast, if you want to use that term. Just, as a result of stepping out of my comfort zone, thanks to sort of the guiding principles of the society. Yeah. But and that's why I think I probably felt inspired to pursue this full time, because I really loved that and saw the value myself. So
yeah, it's interesting that, I think my biggest thing with society is just, I feel like this is such a wealth of knowledge, within the society, just sitting here. And, for someone like me, it's literally a dream come true to just have all of this knowledge at your fingertips. So if anybody wants to get nerdy on the phone, talk about whiskey, give us a call.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of questions too. You guys, I appreciate this about the whiskey too. You want to kind of, Zach, you want to give a quick little rundown of the whiskeys? I know sometimes the label and the codes that we've talked about earlier can be a little confusing at times if you're new to it, but I think it's pretty easy if we just break it down.
Yeah, I can grab one of the bottles here to help too. So essentially, Ben touched on it a little bit earlier in terms of what our whiskey is, and it starts at the core, the spirit itself. We are a single cask, single malt, all at cask strength type of whiskey. When you look at our whiskey, The first thing you're going to notice is the bottle. When you're shopping online, obviously you can't go into a store and buy it and take a look at it first. We have a few different items that you take a look at. I'm stuck here with the old label, as those two lovely people have the new one.
A few days ago. I mean, 3 days ago, we literally. This is our new one, just for reference,
which is awesome. The first thing you're going to notice is the cask number. So taking a look at that, you're going to see that up here, right by my finger. The first number on that code here is 26. Ben's got 12. Jenna's looking at hers. That is going to point to the distillery itself. So I believe now we're up to 141 different distilleries from all over the world, which is awesome. You have the opportunity to try so many different things. And then the second set of numbers you'll see here after that dot have absolutely no meaning to the style or taste or profile of the whiskey. It's essentially just a library of the number of casks that we have bottled from that distillery in the past. So this example here is cask 26.129. This is from Distillery 26 and the 129th barrel that we have bottled out of this distillery. So it's just essentially a library of what we've done with this distillery in the past. After that, you'll see here, this is going to kind of point to our single cask background. As we've talked about many times here already, one of 231. That means that this barrel that we have taken, which was a first fill ex-bourbon barrel, this barrel dumped 231 bottles of whiskey, and that was spread through all of the chapters, all 22 chapters we have around the world. So we'll get an allocation of this sent to us, say 60 bottles or 90 or 32, whatever it may be. And I saw someone comment before, the plus side of this is we get some fantastic, delicious whiskeys. The downside is we fall in love with these fantastic, delicious whiskeys, and now we got to look for a new one because they're all gone. But
it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah, it's a double-sided sword, but sometimes you got to outweigh them with the pros versus the cons. And then after that, we have, the name on here. A lot of people have a lot of fun with the names. We see a lot of them here in the comments. This one is named Pineapple Ramen, if you want to take a look there. Our tasting panel comes up with these names. They have a good time. We don't want to name you something and give tasting notes that just, they're very bland and straightforward. And that's one of the things that really drew me to the society is there's a bit of a story, almost poetically, to their tasting notes. This one talks about a superlative and immensely fruity, elegantly coastal and expressive dram, which truly evokes memories of warehouses, seashore, and sunlight. And I think what's really neat is tying those to memories and situations you've been in that can actually bring you back to that. So instead of getting a tasting note of this tastes like sea salt and wax and brown rubber and this and that, you're getting almost a story that you can read about and maybe tie to something that you've done or you've seen, which a lot of times, to me at least, that's how I remember a lot of flavors. That's how my brain works. It's how, when you smell that whiskey, a lot of times you're locking that in. And like Joe mentioned, you're kind of making a bank of all of the whiskeys that you try as they go. And I find myself with single cask whiskeys like this, I go to pour that last dram and I'm like, this is the last time I'm ever going to drink this. Let me make sure I sit down and I remember, because then, down the road, I'm going to remember this bottle and you're going to have it in the back of your pocket. At the same time, on the label, you're going to find a little bit more information at the bottom. As many of you may know, you may see it down here. If Ben, we want to show off the new label to show them where they're going to see it.
By the way, by new, we're talking, this past
brand new, like
starting off. So yeah, we just
released it. So you'll see, you can see it down. It's right next to the age, which is the big blue number there. So that's a 9-year-old. You're going to see the date that it was distilled on. So in my case, it was September 24th of 2010. And then the cask type. On the new bottles, we are going to have all casks that the whiskey is in.
I feel like this is pretty clear.
So I think it actually works out because Jenna's has both. So on Jenna's, you see the initial cask, which was ex-bourbon barrels. And the final cask that it was moved to was going to be first fill ex-Moscatel hogsheads. So essentially what happens is, in that case, it is no longer a single cask at a technicality, but it is still the same whiskey from one barrel that was just moved to finish in another to build up the complexity of the flavors in the dram. And then you're also going to get the region. So it's going to tell you where it's from. Is it Speyside, Highland, Campbellton, Isla, Lowlands? So it's a little bit of information, kind of letting you know how to understand the bottle. I felt like learning this was like learning how to read a German wine label. I don't know if anybody drinks wine here, but German wine labels make absolutely no sense until someone explains it to you. And then you're like, wow, it's so easy. But it's super fun. It gives you a lot of information all crammed into a small space. But it allows you to kind of read about it as you go. So that's just kind of what's on the bottle. And then in terms of what we were talking about before, Ben and I are brown bears. Jenna's a gray bird that swims in the ocean. We all have different flavor profiles. There's 12 of them. And each one of them is essentially, to me, I think, an awesome tool. When I first got into whiskey, into wine, you find yourself staring at these shelves. Like, what do I buy? How do I know I like it? There's a bunch of labels that are marketed with pretty pictures, or, they've got different colors and age statements. But truly, what do you like? How do you know? You can go to Speyside. Well, Speyside has 50% of all distilleries in Scotland in it. Not everyone's going to taste the same. That'd be really boring. So for us, what we did was we've created this flavor profile system. So for people that don't know what they like, even people that do know exactly what they like, it kind of points you in that direction. So for this one specifically, we have this blue here. We've got 3 different blues. This one is juicy oak and vanilla. So essentially, I've got actually 2 here. These are 2 completely different whiskeys. If you look at them on paper, you've got an 8-year-old from the Highlands in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. Well, then here you have a 16-year-old from Northern Ireland in first fill ex-bourbon barrels. So you're going to think to yourself, well, if you're looking at this on a shelf, how is an Irish whiskey going to taste anything like this Highland distillery? You're probably not going to get there. But this is essentially pointing you in that direction without having to think about it. And when you're shopping online, I think that's a big advantage to have. I don't know about you two. But
I think the good thing, I'm sorry to cut you off, but to answer your question, I think the good thing about it is, I think we collectively as whiskey lovers, appreciators, people who enjoy whiskey, I think we all have different degrees of really sort of interest in what we want to know. I remember for a long time, I didn't really care to know all the details about the cask or the ABV or the region, because it was kind of new to me. But I knew what I liked in terms of the flavor. I knew that I liked something that's really rich or earthy, or I knew I liked something that's sweet or smoky. I knew what I like, and I was still sort of finding that out. So I think for most members of flavor profiles, being able to just say, okay, I've tried one that has this color label, blue, and okay, on the society website that says it's juicy oak and vanilla. So moving forward, knowing that you'll never have that whiskey again, because no 2 casks ever produce the same results. You can then at least feel comfortable or confident stepping in and trying something else from a different distillery, different region, different on paper. All the specs might be different, but we've sort of pre-categorized that in that same flavor profile. There's a good chance you're going to like that. Or, or if you're feeling a little ambitious or, ready to sort of step out to something else and try something different than what you've had, then you can at least say, hey, this is a different flavor profile from the bottle or the couple bottles in my home collection already. So I think most members go for it that way. But as you kind of showed, Jen, on the label of yours, our new labels are now providing even more information about the cask themselves. So if you really are into that and want to know the type of wood and make sort of selections based on that premise, all the information's there for you to work with as well.
Yeah.
So I think both are useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's really helpful to me, at least, when people ask, a lot of the first questions they're asking is, what does the color mean? What is the flavor profile? And then once they understand it, you continue through those tastings and they're continuously, oh, what's this flavor profile? I really like this one. Or, oh, I don't really like that one. And you kind of can point yourself in that direction. And I think that's what really drew me in was when I first started shopping. Hey, I really like this color. Let me start looking at some more of that one. And it just made my experience easier. And then it allowed me to start to grow. And I tried other flavor profiles. Whereas I go to the store, I'm overwhelmed by 30 different distilleries. There's too many to try. How do I know to try different ones? And you usually reach for the one that makes you the most comfortable. And that kind of made me stagnant in growing and learning and understanding more and more about whiskey. So I don't know about you guys and your experiences with the whiskeys, but I found the flavor profile to be one of the biggest impacts on me in growing myself. So
yeah, I think that mentality is really changed for me as well, because, when I first got into whiskey, I was like focused on, what is this distillery? Let me learn about it, this, and this. But, with the society, I'm just focusing on the flavor of the whiskey. So.
Yeah. Paul, a question from Paul on that topic. Oh, by the way, Jenna, your camera's like blurry.
I know. I think
I know sometimes you say the bottle. Like I do that.
Okay.
There you go. It works. But that's a good on your point, Jenna. Like Paul just asked, I'm curious. Questions to the host: what bottles have you tried thinking you would hate, but then you ended up falling in love with? And I think that, Paul, if you don't mind, I'm just going to broaden the question that for not only whiskeys that you would hate, just whiskeys that you just didn't really have interest in.
Right.
Or maybe you wouldn't hate them, but just things that were not really on paper your style. Have there been any?
I'll be honest. Anything that says anything medicinal or gauze pad or tar have always pushed me away. But now that I'm been able to try them, as a freshly opened bottle after sitting for a little bit, is truly it changes the experience. Because again, I'm not going to go to the store and reach for something I know is supposed to taste like that because I don't know I'm going to like it. So it's really, those are my big ones. Jenna?
For me, there's kind of two. The grain whiskeys have actually really surprised me that we've bottled. Those have been really just a treat, and I didn't know that. I guess I haven't had enough maybe grain whiskey in the past, but those have been just very surprising to me, and I've enjoyed them so much. And to learn about grain whiskey and its history and all that's been a lot of fun. But the flavors that you get in those whiskeys have really blown me away. And then the other side of that is throughout my journey, I have come across distilleries that I wasn't crazy about, and so I would avoid purchasing those bottles when I would go to the store. But having had single cask from those distilleries, I'm like, what? This is incredible. Like it's such a different experience than having just, kind of a standard, expression. Having a single cask it's a surprise in itself. So that's been big for me.
Yeah, for me, this one that I actually poured that we tasted here on YouTube on Monday, this 12.33 called "The Most Fun with Your Clothes On." I think it's still available on our shop at our website. But regardless, I got a bottle here for myself to enjoy. But this is one that I think I didn't think I was going to hate it right away, but maybe it didn't really intrigue me on paper before I tasted it. It's 9 years old, which in the scheme of a Speyside whiskey, on the younger side, but when I tried it, we both tried this on Monday on YouTube. It was the first dram in our tasting, and there was so much going on in this spirit, and it just goes to show that you shouldn't judge a whiskey until you really taste it. Sounds like a cliche, don't judge a book by its cover thing, but it's true because and when I was thinking, what am I going to sip on during our discussion today, this popped in my head because I just had lower expectations and I was blown away by what it is.
Yeah, that one is jam packed with flavor.
Yeah,
I really I enjoyed that a lot.
I've seen a lot of questions too, just about the whiskey and the selection. Maybe I'm happy to sort of touch on that too, because I know a lot of members are asking this about really how does it come to be, and that's something I don't think we've addressed is just the whole tasting panel concept. And all these whiskeys before they make it into the bottle, there are all these sort of rigorous checks and balances that, well, not checks and balances, but different checking processes that occur to judge the whiskey, approve the whiskey, make sure it's of a certain quality to go out to society members. I think that's a fundamental difference. It's essentially, we go out, we hunt for these unique casks. Traditionally, they've been sort of older whiskeys that are perhaps ready to be bottled at the time. But as we've grown our selection, we've been able to really target younger spirits that will just move into our warehouse, which is essentially in Western Scotland near a lot of big tonnage warehouses. So we'll allow the spirit to mature there, and then every month or really every week. I'm just thinking of the current COVID pandemic probably has changed the meeting, the ability to meet. But we have what's called a tasting panel, and our society tasting panel is made up of society staff and then other nosing and tasting experts. So oftentimes master distillers will join the panel, And every week or so, they'll blind taste test a selection of different samples that have been drawn from casks aging in our warehouse. So these are whiskeys that all have already been acquired, but they'll be tasting them and essentially judging them. And really only the top casks of that selection will be deemed good enough to be bottled. And it's not necessarily that they're looking for a specific number. Oh, we need to get 5 of 10. It's just if there's whiskeys that are ready to be bottled because the time is right and the flavors develop, there's a great personality and a great story to tell, it'll make the cut and we'll get bottled. And at that point, I think that's when the tasting panel has a lot of fun coming up with these pretty creative names to describe the tasting experience. So this one is called The Most Fun with Your Cloves On. One of the tasting notes that's broken down here, and Jenna, I know you love the tasting notes that are provided here, but
I do.
There's a hint at clove and other sort of herbal notes as well, and so it's also a fun whiskey. Like you just taste it, it's fun. So The Most Fun with Your Cloves On, kind of clever, but yeah, that's kind of the basis for the names. And I know a lot of members really go after the names because it's fun, and we try to make it. We're trying to make it fun, but they're also true to the tasting experience. A lot of times members kind of go and latch on the code system and think of the codes and go for it that way. But the question I saw too was about, are you buying young spirit, new spirit? And it's really all over the board. But I think as we've grown and we've had a chance to really, we have built up our stocks and we can release, a lot to members over the next few decades. We've been able to sort of go with younger spirits and let it mature for a longer period of time before it's ready. And if it's not ready, it's just not going to be bottled. It'll just keep maturing until it is ready. So
there was another question actually about our tasting rooms. So when you are a member of the society, you can go, if you are in London, Glasgow, or Edinburgh, you can visit one of our tasting rooms and, sample a few society whiskeys at your leisure. And I know the one on Queen Street, actually, the restaurant that's attached to it, I haven't been yet, sadly. I was supposed to be there. And then, this virus happened. But the Queen Street restaurant was voted the best restaurant in Scotland, correct?
Yeah, it was a few years back now, but time's flying by. And I don't know, I love that place. I mean, the staff, when you go there, you just walk in and they'll organize a dram pairing with, a multi-course dram pairing dinner, and it's just insane. And then at the end of it, you're realizing, what did I just get myself into? What just happened? You'll just need to go take a nap for a few hours. It was amazing, but the food is fantastic there. But it's what I like about it is that you go to these venues, you go to the vaults, which is a couple miles away, and you walk in, and it's after a couple drams. It's a very open sort of club feeling, and everybody's just sharing drams and asking, what's in your glass? What's in your glass? Try this one. And people are like putting their glasses up to your nose. If you're a germaphobe, maybe it's not for you, or especially during this.
Right.
Maybe people are a little bit more cut back on that. But it was just the idea of being open and sharing with each other. It's like such a family camaraderie feeling. And these are people who just are members who've made the trek over from the States or other parts of the world. Or locals, and it's that's probably one of my favorite aspects. If you can get over there, I would definitely recommend it.
And I actually saw a question earlier. I believe Tom might have answered it, but someone asked if, as a member, can you bring any guests that are not members into these clubs? And the answer is yes. You're more than welcome to. When you go as a member, they are members-only rooms, so you can't just walk off the street and go in. You are surrounded by everybody that has the same, passion for it as you do. You can bring up to 3 non-member guests with you.
Yeah.
So that's always fun. So if you go with, your wife, or, you go with some buddies and they just happen not to be members, you can go and share that experience with them. And, they have the opportunity as well to see it and join if they'd like. But I also read another question here, touching on what you just talked about, Ben. Asked if do the casks spend their whole lives in our warehouses, or do we buy them from at different stages of aging already? And the answer is it's kind of all over the place. As we've grown, we've been able to buy more new spirit that has not even been in a cask yet and age it ourselves in what we'd like. But we've also bought, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've also bought stuff that has been aged. And it's a kind of a mixture of everything. But I know, Ben, you might have more information on that.
Yeah, I think it ultimately depends, and fortunately for us, different than other sort of bottlers of single cask whiskey out there in Scotland, our stocks, we're talking about over 10, I think now 13,000 different casks already. So we're no pressure to go out and buy whiskey or cask, but we're doing it every day still. And the market changes all the time, and so it's got to make sense. The good thing is we're not on a rush, and we don't bottle the whiskey until we feel it's ready. But I think overall the trend is that we're able to buy younger spirit. Often, sometimes it's even just brand new spirit, because we'll just throw it in the warehouse, and we have years at this point. We're no pressure to turn it over or anything, and release it to members. We'll focus on our whiskeys that have been in the warehouse for a longer period of time, if they're ready. But so
there was a question from Matt Kaczynski who asked if you guys have a favorite food pairing with whiskey.
What do you take that one?
Oh, God. Yeah. A big fat slice of chocolate cake with a dram is like heaven.
Yeah.
That is my favorite whiskey food pairing, is with cake.
I wouldn't say I have a food pairing, but I've found pairing cigars. I think a member brought that up at one of our last talks. I think the body of the cigar, it's hard to pair, wine or beer with them, but I think whiskey in its strength, especially these at cask strength, you still have them where, they haven't been broken down or proofed, where they've lost those fatty, oily characteristics to them. I think those work really well with cigars. So no food for me, but I do cigars all the time with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the style of whiskey too, right? I mean, there's so many different styles and different flavors. But Jenna, I'm with you. I think first and foremost, I just think like dessert, it pairs easily. But I also love like raw seafood with sort of a coastal, smoky or peated whiskey. I just think that combination is killer.
I have to try that.
Yeah. So, and not for everybody. Brianna says blue cheese with a sherry maturation. It's nice. Yes. Or fried. Yeah. And Joseph Horton says with a peated whiskey, smoked spice taco pokey. Wow. Getting hungry.
I want some cake now.
Yeah. So
seafood, cake, oily whiskey.
I guess the other layer of it too, and this question comes up. I've seen a couple people ask about it, and we're talking about PX finishes and different types of finishing. I mean, that's another element. And Jenna, you showed the one label that had 2 different casks, and a lot of members ask this, or people who just hear about this say like, how does that come to be? And just the way I would just explain it briefly is, the society, we as a club, we were owned by the Glenmorangie Group up until 2015. So I'm sure everybody knows Glenmorangie. If not, huge island distillery. Also, sister distillery is Ardbeg, owned by the same company. And so around the time of 2015, the society went independent again. We started getting a little creative with the way we did things. Not that the Glenmorangie Group was really holding us back, but we just we felt it's a new era, new chance to try something different. And so, our spirits team now over in Scotland is I think this is a great job that they have, but they've essentially traveled the world in search of great wood. So not in addition to going around and buying casks of spirit to then bring to the warehouse and eventually release for our members, we're also going to sherry bodegas and vineyards, and all over the world, just buying great casks for essentially double maturation. So we'll go to instance for Spain, they'll find really the best wood from different sherry bodegas. They'll import it back into Scotland, and then go in the warehouse amongst the 10,000 plus different casks and just feel a little experimental and say, okay, which of these whiskeys can potentially benefit, not necessarily benefit, but really just develop a unique flavor profile based on a little finish and this for a certain period of time. And so it's really just playing with the cask based on the wood. But recall the word benefit because I think a misconception is that we take whiskey that's not good enough to be bottled on its own and then transfer it into a different cask to inject it with a different flavor. It's really starting with great whiskey that could go into great wood and create something new. But that's our spirit team does it. But ultimately, if the spirit or tasting panel doesn't approve it in the blind taste test process, it's not going to get bottled. Yeah. It's a different thing. So the wood is, we've invested heavily in wood, over the last few years. And I think it's paying off. So. Okay. So.
When it comes to wood, just to kind of touch on that. So for the one that I was showing you guys, the label in the Ex Moscatel, that's a Portuguese wine, I believe. But I've not seen one with this finish before. So are we going to see maybe in the future some, finishes that you don't typically see?
Yeah, I mean, I think our spirits team is just going crazy buying great wood, you know, and there are no limitations. It's funny because I was talking with Kai Ivalo, who's our spirits director. I know some of you guys I know have met Kai when he's over in the States, but we were just talking with another member, actually a member here where I am in Chicago, who's Greek, and there's a specific type of Greek wine. He said, my dream is to have a whiskey that's aged in this type of oak that used to hold this type of Greek wine. And we just said, okay, I mean, it would have to taste good, but on paper, it sounds like it could be a good idea. And I think that just speaks to us as a club. I think we're a member first. And so we take a lot of our ideas come from members saying, this sounds like a great idea. Can we make this happen? And we'll just say, sure, let's figure it out. So I think to answer your question, I think we'll see Muscatel or Muscats, in Italian, sort of same thing, is not as common, but it's makes for a really unique spirit.
Very unique.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well,
do you want to? What do you have, Jenna? I mean, those whiskeys, you got and I'm envious because I don't think we've tried those yet. So those are brand new.
Yeah, the three that I have, they are all brand new. They are part of our new member bundles. So if you're not a member of the society and you jump on, there's a few to do it. So you can just buy the membership by itself. Or we've put together some, special pricing for membership and bottle bundles. And there's 3 different ones to choose from. And I believe the first one is the membership and the 80.13, which is called Float Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee. So that's this one. And then the second one, I believe, is a peated whiskey. So for all the peat heads out there, this is 53.312. And this is also part of our new member bundles. And then we have a 36.168, which is a 19-year ex-bourbon, which is finished in first fill Ex Moscatel Hogshead.
What's the name of that one?
This one's called Fruity, Earthy, and Exciting.
What's the name of the 53? I'm curious about that one.
What's the name of
the 53 is called Variety of Emotions, and it is a 10-year ex-bourbon hogshead. And it is very good.
Yeah, it was fun. We kind of curated. I hadn't tried those, but curated sort of a variety of selections for first-time members to pick from. Also, we have a lot of members who like to offer sort of a membership or a bottle as a gift. So these are, I think, just as popular amongst first-time members joining themselves and trying to pick a whiskey as a lot of members who want to gift those. So we put a variety that we think is going to just offer, something for everybody, and I'm pretty stoked about that.
This variety is pretty awesome. I mean, I feel like there's really something for everyone here. You have like your big peat bomb, and then this 36.168 is like kind of just trying to think. It's like mature and very earthy, and the Moscatel gives it a very unique finish, which I have not, had experience with. And the color is beautiful. And then you have this 80.13, which it is so fantastic. Like, I want 5 bottles of this. It's really beautiful. And, that's for somebody who maybe is just getting into single cask, or for, somebody who's an enthusiast. I think that this can go across the board. So lots of options.
Yeah, those are awesome. And those are only available for new members?
Yes, those are part of our new member bundles. So you can't buy these bottles by themselves. It is just if you buy new membership in kind of that bundle. So, and then the other option we have is the tasting kit. So we do offer a tasting kit as well that has 3 different 100 milliliter bottles in it. And, look. Yeah, will you open that up?
By the way, this is an unscripted presentation. We've gone into like as the anti-brand or anti-whiskey company, we wanted to make this not an infomercial, but I appreciate that you have that to show as well.
I do.
No, I didn't know you had that.
Yeah, I do. I like to show it at all my tastings because everybody likes to look at it. So
pretty.
You got three different whiskeys there.
So those are all small, about 100 milliliters.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the cool thing is they're ones that you can't get anywhere else. So it's always exciting to me, at least, to try things that I can't get at other places. So,
That's pretty. I've not seen one up front yet.
You also get a nice little tasting notes book if you want to just write some tasting notes throughout, and the lapel pin. It's a nice little gift.
Yeah, I like that. But all of that information, if you're curious about it, you can obviously pick up the phone and give us a call, or it is all on our website under the Join tab on smwsa.com.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great because with all those 3 bottles and the tasting kit, if you pair with a 1-year membership, you get kind of a lower price, or there's some savings involved, which is pretty great. The other thing, I kind of view the first society bottle as a special experience, and so I remember my first bottle. I really wanted, I was not nervous about it, but I was really thinking, man, this is a step forward in my whiskey journey. And so, our team is available if you guys want to talk through the whole selection. And Jenna, you were talking to somebody for 35 minutes, a member who called in.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we do. And before I worked for the company, I was calling everybody, just saying, what do you got coming in? What's in right now? My style, acting like a big shot. Not really, but, we do that with every member. So it's no VIP treatment. It's just,
we all know Ben likes Sauternes casks. So
I like them all. I mean, I'm liking this first fill bourbon barrel on this most fun with your cloves on.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the bourbon, cask that we've gotten have just been so flavorful. Like, I've not experienced this much flavor just from ex-bourbon. Like, I think for me, for a while, just in whiskeys that I have all the time, it was starting to kind of plateau a little for me flavor-wise. But the ones that we've been getting in are just like, they just explode on your palate. There's so much flavor in these things. So those have been, I agree with you that those have been a lot of fun to get into.
Yeah. So I think kind of as we wrap up, I know we've gone over an hour, but if you guys have any last questions, drop them in. Maybe just to touch on a couple of things coming up, because if you subscribe to our email list, you've probably got a pretty exciting email just a few hours ago, maybe, but just kind of recapping, this past week we had our May outturn. So every month we have what's called our outturn, which is our big selection. And actually it's gotten to a point where we don't just have one outturn every month. We'll have different whiskeys released throughout the month, the mid-month outturn and other special occasions. This last week was our biggest outturn ever. And I just want to address some of the comments. So we saw a lot of members have commented, wow, a lot of those whiskeys move pretty quickly. And if you look at our website, you'll see this word sold out next to a lot of them. I think what we've been realizing internally is that because more and more of us are at home right now and turning to whiskey exploration as a number one hobby, just like hand sanitizer is a number one sort of commodity. It's been a unique circumstance. Our whiskey hasn't been lasting out as long as it can. And I saw some comments about it. It's been a bit of a free for all. I don't know. I would just say on our end, we recognize that we're doing everything we can to get more and more whiskey. Just bear in mind, of course, we're still very selective with the whiskey we put out there. We can't just bottle everything. Our tasting panel is not going to change its process and just start opening the floodgates and saying, everything can bear a society label and get to a member. It has to be really, really good. But the good news is it's coming up with more and more selection. And so this last week was our biggest outturn. We suspect this one coming up soon will be even bigger than that and moving forward. So I don't know. I just want to call that out and I hope you guys understand that it's not really just us, but it's all whiskey in general is really of high interest amongst, I think, this country and perhaps the rest of the world at the moment. And so we hope you guys understand that and just know that we're doing everything on our end to accommodate and get you guys the whiskey you want.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but do you want to talk about what's going on? Sorry, that was this past week, but we were talking about what's going on, kind of moving forward.
Next week, Ben.
Well, Zach, you are so excited about it. I'll let you.
So excited! I am stoked for this. Obviously, with everything that's going on and everybody's stuck at home, the world keeps moving. And during this time of the year is when Scotland loves to hold all of its whiskey festivals. And what's really cool about them, one, it's not easy to get over there and go to these festivals and get these super cool bottles that are only released there. And I think what's really neat is that as a society, what we do is we try to release special casks to go along with these. And this year is the first year that we're actually digging into the Highland Festival. So next week, it's exciting. On Tuesday, we'll be doing a tasting for the upcoming Speyside Festival releases, which we've been able to grow into a larger selection for our members, as Ben was speaking of. So that we've got a handful of whiskeys that are super exciting coming out for that. And then Thursday, we've got the Highland Festival. I don't know about you guys, but I am super excited.
Zach has been talking about the Highland Festival.
I'm waiting for my friend to buy one so I can try it. But no, I think what's really neat is that we still have the ability to bring that to our members. And, even though those festivals are not happening, we're still able to provide those bottles that are specially for these festivals. Even though they're not happening, we're still able to bring that and hopefully share that excitement with the members. Yeah. So we'll be doing little preview tastings right beforehand, leading up to them. So obviously people can get, excited with me. And these guys have heard enough of my excitement, so you guys can get excited with me. But then the following week, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but again, we've got the Campbellton one on, is that Tuesday? And then we've got Fagile for Isla coming out on Thursday. And I know these two are going to be super excited about that one. So I don't know if you guys, want to kind of touch on the Campbellton Festival or the Fagile, but those are more of up your guys' alleys in terms of flavor profile. So,
yeah, man, I think in essence, as you mentioned, the festivals are not taking place for obvious reasons this month, which is a bummer. The Spirit of Speyside Festival was supposed to take place, I think, this week or last. Obviously, it isn't, and so it's just an amazing thing that happens every year in Scotland. We were in a unique position, of course, because we, like many of the distilleries that participate in the festivals, had designated our special festival bottlings, casks that have been bottled in celebration of the festival. And, you have the question of what do we do? Just dump it down the drains? No, of course not. No. We have this amazing whiskey that we picked. And so we're going to, keep the celebration, and launch it obviously virtually and discovering at home. And so we'll be doing a series we'll be back on YouTube here, leading up to the release of each cask. Bear in mind, I think it's going to be these are going to be popular days coming up. And so we put the whole release schedule out via email, and you'll see more on our site soon. But we'll be tasting the whiskeys, introducing them. I think we'll be kicking off at noon on Tuesday, and then noon on Tuesday, noon Eastern, and then 1 Eastern it'll be released. And of course, there's only so much to go around, and so I don't think it'll last long, and there's not much there. But it's it'll be fun. It'll be fun, kind of kicking off. It'll be for you, Jenna. It's going to be really early because noon is
9 a.m.
Talking about some day drinking.
Just gonna skip coffee altogether next week.
Yeah. Michael D says, "Is there a SMWS Facebook group?" There is. I mean, that you can, if you like and subscribe to SMWS America on Facebook. There's always good chat there. Also on Instagram at SMWS America, we chat, and we commonly repost other members and content they feature. But we're always open to exploring new channels for members to chat about whiskey, share their experience. So shoot us a note if you have other ideas too.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So.
Well,
that was that.
Yeah.
I think we're all going to go on the weekend, have a few drams, and that was fun though.
That was fun.
Absolutely.
That was definitely a lot of fun. It's nice, even though you hear about this stuff all day and you talk about it all day. It's nice to come together and talk about it.
Yeah,
just enjoy sharing. Especially we're all inside our own homes, and I love talking to the members, but it's always fun to see faces and talk to them, and not having those tasting events. I know your face is right there, and Jenna's is there. They're there, and that's the important thing is being able to connect and share, and it's something that I definitely miss. So these are always a good time for me.
Yeah, it's a nice escape. Jenna, any closing remarks you'd like to throw in there?
Yes, I am actually going to be jumping on later to the Whiskey Dictionary on YouTube at 6:00 Pacific time to go a little more in depth about one of the bottles in our new member bundle. So if anybody is around, feel free to jump on over there and join us for some good society talk. And I guess my biggest closing remark is, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here and we love talking about this stuff and we love talking with you all. So please don't hesitate to reach out, whether that's in an email or a phone call. We're here to help and we're here to talk whiskey. So yeah.
I would just say to that, for everyone tuning in who's a current member of the society, just want to say how much we appreciate you, as 3 fellow members, kind of overly enthusiastic and actually became part of the team itself, but not members nonetheless. It's been amazing, and we've had such a great run. And I think I'm really excited for, even with this sort of COVID pandemic, it's changed some of the plans that we had, for this year. But we have a lot of amazing, I think, we can't give it away yet, but there's a lot of cool things coming down the road in the coming months and that we're working on just to make the experience, I think, unlike it's ever been, and it's going to be amazing. So that's that. If you're not a member, you want to join it, listen, we'd love to have you, of course. I think that goes without saying. We're not very exclusive. I think we're the opposite of that. There's no application. You just have to love whiskey and be open to sharing it with others, and come with an open mind. That's kind of what we look for, and that's about it. So,
like they both said, feel free, reach out. We're always here. We're always happy to help. So look forward to talking to some more of you guys.
All right. Till next time.
Cheers.